So I'm going to talk, I'm the final act today, and I'm going to talk about some things about the future of consumer electronics. I gave a talk on some of these topics last year, but here's what we'll talk a little bit about. First of all, Lee talked before about this Transportation Electrification Initiative. That's one of the activities in an IEEE Technical Activities Group that's called the Future Directions Committee. And we thought that was a pretty cool idea in the Consumer Electronics Society, so we formed our own Future Directions Committee. And we've got a number of initiatives going on. In fact, Lee's involved in one of those on our mobile power initiative. We've got something new in particular, which I think I'm going to talk at some length about, which is a digital census initiative, which is, and I'll discuss that. And actually, there's a fellow named Yu Yuan, who is actually here at the very beginning of this conference, who is heading that up. Then we'll talk about some other Consumer Electronics Society Future Directions activities, and finally some conclusions. So let's talk about the bigger IEEE Future Directions. So the IEEE, as you know, or may or may not know, has something like 42 different technical societies and affinity groups of various sorts. And those groups are part of most of them are part of something called the Technical Activities, which includes all the societies, including Consumer Electronics Society. So there is this Future Directions Committee, which has representatives from all of these technical societies and councils and things of that sort. And they meet at least a couple times a year, and oftentimes more on the phone. And they're looking at various, actually as Lee described, this thing's been around for about 5 years. And there's people, I've been representing the Consumer Electronics Society in this committee, and they've got a number of initiatives that they've been doing over the years. And they actually have funding these are larger programs, which the Transportation Electrification one, Lee, what was the budget on that initially? Something like over $1 million or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they can have fairly significant budgets from the IEEE, these initiatives. And they've included over time, transportation electrification up there at the top. IEEE Internet of Things is something that's fairly current and ongoing now. IEEE Cloud Computing is another one. There's one on big data, cybersecurity, rebooting computing, what's the next type of processing devices we're going to have, green ICT, smart cities, and software-defined networks. And funding for these things can come from this Future Directions Committee or something the IEEE has, which is called their New Initiatives Committee, which can put money into these various projects. Now, they've developed this process step. It's roughly am I still on? It's roughly a 3-year process. Oh, the power's on.
Anyway, we can't hear you anyway.
You can hear me, yes.
Yeah.
I can see myself.
No power.
But I have no power, so I can't show you the slides. Well, let me continue anyway until I get the power back. You guys are trying to get the power back. So this Future Direction has developed a maturity model where they go through a process step of first, this up here. Where they do an incubation phase where they're trying to figure out what it is they're trying to do. And that might even be like a seed project. We've actually got some things that are seed projects right now in this Future Directions Committee. And then it goes into something called phase 1. What they try to do is a lot of these activities actually span the interests of many different societies, of many different technical organizations. Transportation electrification, as Lee was discussing earlier, is an example of that. The other one, and then it goes into a phase 2 where you position as one face to the customer. In other words, we've got all these organizations that are working together, but they come out, they represent the IEEE as a single entity rather than all the societies. So it's all these technical societies, technical disciplines working together for some common objective. For example, the transportation electrification. Now, what was it, something like 20 or so societies and technical organizations, I think they're originally working with that, with transportation electrification, for example. And then finally, there's a phase 3. So this would be like the 3rd year. It's a 3-year process, roughly. Position IEEE as a thought leader in this area. And then the next thing is this would then go off of this Future Directions or New Initiatives funding, and it has to fund itself, or it has to be part of some other group within the IEEE that could continue funding. For example, the Transportation Initiative ended up under the Power and Engineering Society, I believe. Or was that right, Lee? The Transportation Initiative ended up in which group? It was the Power and Engineering Society, yeah. And so they own that. There's another group that I've been involved in. Or the cloud computing is another one that graduated, went to that phase 3 process. That one's under the Computer Society, okay, but there's still a lot of organizations that are still participating in that. There's other ones which have remain as sort of an organization composed of these various technical groups working together rather than directly under one society. So some interesting new models of the way in which IEEE groups can work together. So current initiatives, as I said before, big data, green ICT, rebooting computing, software-defined networks, cybersecurity, Internet of Things, smart cities, Internet initiative, brain-machine interfaces, and digital census. And that digital census is one I'm going to talk a little bit more about. That was just getting started as a funded initiative. Graduate initiatives include cloud computing, life sciences, smart grid, and transportation electrification. How are we doing on that power? So I'm going to talk now about the IEEE Consumer Electronics Society Future Directions Committee. This is what our society is working on, things we've got going. I might say I think we've got a pretty cool group working on this, including Lee, including Yuan, and a number of other people as well. So we'll talk a bit about that as we go through here. First of all, we serve as an active member of the larger IEEE Future Directions Committee. That's the one I just talked about inside of IEEE Technical Activities itself. We also have a very active Future Directions group in our society. It may be the most active group in the IEEE working on future directions. I don't know if any other society actually has a program of their own future directions. We've had this committee since 2013. And this could be the way, we really believe, many of us, this could be the way that we get the Consumer Electronics Society on the map with the technical professionals, that we could increase our membership by 2x or more. Because if you think about the prevalence and the amount of people that are touched by consumer electronics, we should be a much larger society than we are today. Things like this, I believe, could be a key of helping to make that happen. So our objectives are to help bring interesting and important industry topics. This again is an industry focus. There's an academic element of it, but we really think we need to get industry into this, and this is one way we can do that. It helps us to generate articles for the Consumer Electronics magazine, which Peter has been the editor-in-chief of for some time now, or is looking for someone to take that job from him. We want to create new initiatives on important topics that will impact consumer electronics in our daily lives. We want to create new standards. IEEE as a standards organization, we have activities going on in Consumer Electronics Society on new standards. We want to create a bigger and lasting presence of the Consumer Electronics Society in the IEEE and in the world at large. And therefore attract new members, attract new kind of partnerships, new kind of activities we might do, for instance, with industries, with companies, and other organizations. And we want to help create the future. You know, part of the reason why I got into engineering, or why I got into science and engineering, was I loved science fiction as a kid. You know, and I wanted to make the stuff I used to read about, the hard science fiction. You know, I wanted to make the stuff I used to read about. That really inspiration. I thought by the time I'm the age I am now, I'd be a crusty asteroid miner. You know, so we were talking about these cool cars, but Peter and I were just discussing up there. You know, we thought we'd be flying rocket ships by this time. Anyway, regarding some of these activities we discussed, conferences, our Internet of Things working group is organizing articles and conference sessions. How are we doing that, Paul? Consumer home health. That's something actually that you heard some things here from about the health, and that's an area that the IEEE Consumer Electronics Society has put some effort into. They've had workshops and other activities both last year and this year. We have this Sustainable Electronics Committee, which hasn't been very active this year, but there's a guy, I don't know if any of you know, a guy named Kyle Weens, or iFixit. Okay. Yeah, so Kyle Weens was very active in our society a few years ago. And he also likes to tear down things and show you how they're tear down. In fact, if you want to see how things are made, he's got a great tear down site. So check out ifixit.com. But he participated in a sustainable electronics. The idea was to build electronics that are durable. You should be able to repair these. We should be able to figure that there are, you know, And so we actually participated in a Sustainable Technology Conference that's put on by IEEE Region 6 in July of last year. I live in Region 6, by the way, and he does too. We have had 2 mobile power workshops last year. Okay, one was in the Santa Clara Valley area, otherwise known as Silicon Valley. The other one was in Ireland, actually over at Peter's place in Galway. This year we plan on doing 2 more. The first one will be in, actually I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, I'll talk about this later. The first one will be in Milpitas, which again is Silicon Valley area, September 23rd and 24th. And Lee and I have been helping organize that one. The next one is going to be in Nice, France, in November. Okay. Now also, and I want to, maybe some of you folks have something out there, for both of these events, we have gotten funding from the IEEE Future Directions, $15,000 for student prizes. So we're splitting that roughly in half between those 2 events, and we're making that available for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place for these events. So if any of you is working in something with regard to mobile applications that have something to do with energy efficiency, or devices that have to do with energy efficiency or generating energy, anything of that sort, let us know, because we are looking for contestants for these. We also have events focusing on mobile power, digital census, and the Internet of Things planned at various IEEE Consumer Electronic Society conferences. So, with the bigger IEEE Future Electronics Committee, that's the one we talked about earlier, we've had IEEE Future Directions Convergence events, that's what we called them, which brought in people from a lot of other societies to the ICCE conference in Las Vegas. We've done that the last couple of years, 2014, 2015. In the 2016 ICC conference in Las Vegas, in early January 2016, we're going to have what's called the Mini Technology Time Machine. It's going to be kind of like that, but it's going to be very future-oriented. We're looking out 15 years or greater. You know, what's going to be happening, technologies in various disciplines. We're going to have people from many different technical societies. What's going to be big things that could impact consumer electronics 15 years out or greater that are going to be speaking there. Also, I'm part of something that's called the Technology Time Machine. These mini technology time machines sort of spawned off of, perhaps. And they're planning a 2016 event in San Diego next year in June. Standards work. Our Future Directions work is helping to create a vibrant consumer electronics standards activity. How are we doing? Not yet. Okay. We have active standards activities related to an open source repair manual from the Sustainable Electronics Future Directions activity in 2013. You like that? We got to get a picture of this. But we have connected vehicles, consumer drones, and other important consumer topics too. In fact, Yu Wan is our standards guy. He's been really pushing a lot of these interesting activities. You like that? I have my own, and my battery's running out of juice. I was hoping you'd charge me up. So, the magazine, with our editor-in-chief over there, we've had articles on the Safe Advanced Mobile Power Initiative. Yeah, I gotta get this. Mobile Power Initiative, as well as the Internet of Things. What we need is a big magnifying glass. We'll continue to promote and identify potential authors of topics on topics related to the future of consumer electronics and our travels and meetings with people that covers. Over 150 people worldwide, by the way, have been involved in something we started the year before last, which is a survey of young professionals and students. In fact, we're going all the way down to high school and thereabouts, asking them about the kind of way they use their consumer devices and various sorts of things. In fact, we had an article in the magazine, I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, on some of those results. The link to that, which you cannot possibly read from where you are, is still active. So if anyone here, any of you students or anything like that, would like to participate in that, you can still do that. And there we go. And here's some example of stuff from the survey, which you cannot possibly see at all. But I'll be glad to share it with you someday. Okay, oh, we're back up again. Okay, so we're going through all kinds of interesting stuff here. Okay, now, future direct activities we're doing now. We have the Safe Advanced Mobile Power Initiative, which is led by Lee Stockton. We also have the Consumer Internet of Things, which is led by Sumia Kanti-Dada, who is in Nice, France, working at Eurocom. And we have a transportation electrification. I was doing that up until last year. Yu Yuan has taken it over. He's basically our representative on the transportation electrification, which Lee Stogner talked to you quite a bit about a little bit earlier. I might as well pull this out too. What the heck? The consumer augmented reality. Now this is an interesting one. That's Yu Yuan was doing that one, and actually kind of led to his being drawn into some other activities, which I'll talk about in a minute. I'll talk about it right now, in fact, which is something called digital census. And I'll describe this a little bit further, and I'll show you some pictures which you can't see about the kind of stuff we're talking about. And I'll try to describe it in words. We also have something new, which Stephen Duke said he's interested in. By the way, Simon Sherrod also says he's interested in this thing, which is consumer privacy and security. There's been a lot of talks on that topic here. We have also Bob Frankston, Joe DeCoeur have talked about something on the future of making, like 3D printing and stuff of that sort. You know, can we do things on that? All these things can have big impacts on consumer electronics. Let me know when we actually have something that works. Oh, should I plug in? Oh, well. Oh. Excuse me. 13, 12, 10, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yo. Okay. Wow, look at that. We're cooking with gas now. Okay, so I want to talk to you about something that's pretty cool. And by the way, the St. Petersburg folks, do you know where this is? It's in the Hermitage. Yes, I took a picture of this in the Hermitage and I was there one time. Anyway, so we're going to talk about this thing called the Digital Census Initiative. This is one of the two major initiatives selected this year by the IEEE Future Directions Committee, which is part of this Technical Activities Board. It's funded by TAB, $75,000 to fund this thing this year. And it's led by the Consumer Electronics Society. They asked us if we would be the lead society in this activity. That's a major thing. It's the first time we've ever done that. So Yu Yuan is our representative in that group, and it kind of fits into that augmented reality stuff that he was talking about doing. Our project plan this year is to set up the identity, get a logo, website, community, do some press releases, do some press events with some of that money, and have some teleconferences meeting on this, and then to build visibility. Invited speeches or sessions at existing conferences. By the way, this is going to go on next year. So for next year's ICCE Berlin, we should see if we can do something along these lines. I think that'd be kind of cool. We want to solicit participation, roundtable problem-solving workshops. We're going to have 3 of them this year in various places, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And we want to collaborate with other ongoing efforts. For instance, things with regard to augmented reality, with the Standards Activity, Computer Society, our society, the Consumer Electronics Society. There's an augmentedreality.org area, AR community, etc. Also wearables activities with the Communications Society, Standards Activities, and various other groups. And then healthcare is another one of these things where this may play some role. So there's various organizations both within and outside of IEEE that this gives us a very interesting opportunity to work together on. Now, there's a guy named Karl Popper who was a philosopher of science. In 1978, he this is taken from the lecture. This stuff actually is from you. It's his presentation. The Turner Lectures on values. And he was talking about the world today having 3 basic elements. There's the physical world, the things as they actually are. There's the world in our brain, which is how do we perceive things. And then there's a new world which never existed until some of these digital technologies, and that is a cyber world, a world that exists within machines, okay? And so there's various ways in which we can combine these 3 worlds together. And, oh good, it does show pretty well. So one of these things is we can add the physical world and overlap a cyber world on the physical world to augment reality, for instance, to give heads-up displays on a car,
or things of that sort, or a doctor to be able to look inside of somebody and see what's happening inside of them, say through some glasses or goggles or something like that. But then there also is a place where you can do various ways in which I can sort of create a new world which may or may not map onto the real world. Okay, it might distort and change the real world, or it might be something that's totally generated within a machine. So that's what's called virtual reality. Virtual reality may include the physical world as it is in it, or it may be something that's very, very different, even with totally different laws of physics and that sort of thing. So these are all things that are important for this digital census, because what we're talking about is creating new ways of seeing things, of hearing things, of touching things, tactile, of smelling stuff, and of tasting things. New tools by which we can do that. And that can combine, again, use augmented reality as ways of enhancing the way we look at the world, but it may also be something that could be part of entertainment systems or new ways of experiencing things that have never existed, and could be part of the creative process, which is an important element of being a human being. So there's really interesting possibilities here. And this digital initiative scope is to capture and reproduce or synthesize various stimuli, again, sight, hearing, touch, smell, taste, etc., from the outside world, combine the reproduced or synthesized stimulus with the naturally received stimulus, okay, things that happen in various ways, let humans perceive and react upon that stimulus, whether it's something that we currently are able to experience or something that we can experience we've never been able to before. Imagine seeing X-rays, for example. One thing. We can use this to let machines react and perceive upon that stimulus as well. So it's not just us interacting with things, it's our machines, our tools to interact with these things, either as prosthetic devices or standalone, but be careful about that one. Digital census, one of the focus areas is as part of virtual reality. How can we interact with a world that exists inside of machines, or maybe is a combination of the physical worlds we have, but then superimposing elements which are created often by humans, creating some kind of algorithm or program, but that can put us in a place which we've never been in before. So that's virtual reality. And there's a fine line, in a sense, between this augmented reality, i.e. augmenting things as they are now, and virtual reality. And if anyone's ever, I think didn't we have a Star Trek reference at some point earlier today, how do you tell whether you're in the holodeck or not, ultimately? If the simulation, if the programs and algorithms and the display technology go even beyond what we saw in the time lab last night. So there's interesting possibilities here and interesting stuff that people are doing. There's this Microsoft Hololens example of this, and here's a theme park where people are wearing these helmets and they see each other like that. So they're kind of superimposed on an environment, and they have these fake guns, and they're showing themselves actually blowing things up. So other fascinating things we could be doing. We can enhance our ability to perceive the things we perceive today. Okay? For instance, I'm partially red-green colorblind. I would love to be able to see what red really looks like to people. My wife always says when I buy her something red that it's brown. It'd be very interesting to actually see what that color looks like. Right? We could do things like that with this kind of technology, where you can deal with limitations people have now and allow them to see things. Or even if you can see, what if you could go beyond perfect vision? What if you could, so you could even enhance it more than what you could otherwise? What if you could extend our senses to parts of the spectrum which we do not now directly perceive, and make that something we can perceive? What if I could see in infrared? What if I could see in radio? What if I could see in gamma rays or X-rays? That could be very, very interesting to be able to have that experience. What if you looked at the night sky with X-ray vision? What would you see? See all the black holes and things like that out there, right? Those technologies will help us to assist with perceptually impaired people, so it has medical applications, but also to create new types of experiences of the world, new ways in which we can understand and interpret the world around us, new tools, but it will also give us new ways in which we can entertain each other and create visions and insights on both ourselves and the world around us, which have probably never existed before. So planned activities this year, we're planning on getting things going in a lot of our conferences, and also other technical societies conferences, so there's a list of them here. We'd like to do something, ICCE Berlin, for instance, IFA, maybe next year. Actually, I'm talking a little bit about it here, so I guess we got some of it here. There's this GCCE conference in Japan, which is associated with CEA Tech. And there's a bunch of other conferences, including ICCE CES in 2016. In fact, that's probably the first time we have a chance to really put together some sessions directly related to this topic and this initiative. So you don't want to miss that in Las Vegas in January, associated with the CES show. Also in China, Asia, various places, both Europe, Asia. And we want to create maybe even a new conference. Could focus on this, could be another possibility. Standards, harmonize existing standards that are related to this, develop new standards, provide reference implementation, and to foster and inspire global adoption. So activities we're planning, we'd like to do publications. Our editor-in-chief of the magazine likes to hear that. So we're talking about special sections or special issues in our existing publications. Maybe we could even, if we got enough activity going here, part of the thing you're supposed to do with this, maybe generate new publications. Like how about a IEEE transactions on digital census or an IEEE digital census magazine? So would you like to do that too, Peter? No.
I'm not a magazine.
Also, we think this could help us if maybe have membership development of this group, like a digital census community with individual membership or organizations could be parts of this. In education, maybe get some distinguished lectures in this area. That's the kind of thing these groups do, these activities do, webinars, student contests, entrepreneurship, and more. So this year, we're going to have 3 workshops related to this topic. The first one is going to be in Boston, September 29th and 30th this year. The second one is going to be in Shenzhen, China, November 16th and 17th. And then the last one is going to be November 30th to December 1st. It'll be in the Silicon Valley area. So these are things that UON is organizing. Now, just to wrap things up here, because we've got other fun things we're working on too. And we'd like you guys to help join us if you could, because the future is ours for the making. So let's talk about some of our activities here. We've got, first of all, we've been involved with the Future Directions Committee of the IEEE for some time. And they got money they put into these new initiatives. There was a poll of members on the 9 Future Directing activities that were on the table of what they ought to be doing for 2015, what they should be funding. This is early in the year. There were 9 things that were on that list. One of them was the brain machine interface, which is now the BRAIN initiative. Another one was this digital census. Okay, those 2 were the ones that got the top votes in the poll. But the next one down was our mobile power initiative. Okay, so our thought is that by 2016, we may be able to build up enough support within the Future Directions Committee that we can get this mobile. 2 chunks of that we're going to give away between the event later this month in Santa Clara Valley and in France in November. So it's related to applications or devices dealing with mobile power, either power sources, energy efficiencies, or anything like that. So if you've got any of those, let us know. Get a hold of Lee and I, because we're looking for contestants for these. Otherwise, we have to give it back to the Future Directions Committee. We don't want to do that, do we? Okay. Our mobile power initiative objective is to create a safe and sustainable energy source for, like a smartphone, that basically will make these things useful. I mean, they're useful now, but I'm always running out of juice during the day. And I carry a little battery thing with me just to try to, boost myself up a little bit if I have to. But we should try to make devices that are more capable than this. And there's a whole discussion I had last year. I showed you guys why we could do this and what we could do if we could do that, if we had that kind of power available. The creation of these longer-lasting energy sources will have important technical and social benefits. I think in order to do this, we've got to create a vast acceleration of the rate at which we are creating power sources. Right now, battery technology is roughly doubling the energy density of these devices every 10 years. That's not Moore's law. That's not the way network speeds have been growing, not the way storage capacity and devices, both solid state and spinning, have been increasing over time. It's one of the slower moving technologies, and yet it's so key to our life today. So we need to do something about that, and that's part of the inspiration for this for that activity. So again, we're calling for student designers, a more efficient mobile application or device. We'll have 2 energy efficient competitions, $15,000 total, and I already described this, so I will go on. open to higher level undergraduates and graduate students. So if you guys have something out there that you think could fit into that, get a hold of us. Not tomorrow, not next week, today, if you do have something like that, or you know someone that does. So here's a flyer on the competition here, and if anyone is interested in that, come and see me or Lee. Give us your email address. We'll shoot this stuff off to you so you can get started on this. So another thing is the consumer Internet of Things. So Soumya Cantedata from France is now an associate editor of our magazine, and he's working on a proposal for a special issue related to the tied into some special sessions on the consumer Internet of Things, and he's also organizing those sessions. We've had stuff at various conferences where we've had activity in those areas. And we're also planning conference sessions at the ICC in Las Vegas that are going to be on that. We're going to have, in fact, our plan is to have a whole industrial track. This would be one of those, of sessions on things that are related to industry. They're also planning on a Internet of Things workshop in Malaysia. Transportation electrification, Lee talked about that. Yu Yuan is our society representative, so I won't go any further on that. Cloud computing for consumers. So I'm actually the representative of the Consumer Electronics Society and this Cloud Computing Initiative in the Future Direction. It's now in the Computer Society. It came out of the Future Directions Committee. They've got a special subgroup formed around what's called fog computing or edge computing. But it has to do with ad hoc sort of networks and connectivity between these devices that don't have enough power in them to be able to work together and do things, okay? And do things ad hoc, and not just working with the big cloud, but creating your own localized cloud, or working with the resources in these devices in some kind of clustered or community fashion. So there's talk about conferences and other activities around this topic that we can be part of. And that might be, for us, some of the most interesting things. I mean, the cloud in the big data centers creates these applications, but what if our devices could also be part of interesting applications, just working with each other? And if you have cars that are part of a connected transportation system, that's one of the things they might be doing. The future of making is a new one that's been talked about. We don't have a lot of details in that, but where will 3D printing go? What will it do for consumer electronics? Consumer privacy and security. We've got a couple of guys who said they want to be part of doing that, so we're waiting to see if that happens. And in general, I want to ask you folks, if there anything that is, do you have any passion for something that you'd like to see happen in consumer electronics? Because if you do, we want to know about that. We'd like to help you to make that happen. We'd like you to develop your dreams. We'd like you to help us, to work with us to help to create the future that we would like to live in. In conclusion, our Future Directions Committee, we're looking for volunteers to help do cool stuff. We've got a great group of people already. People could work with things we already have, or look interesting to you, or you can maybe start something new. We're very open to doing that kind of stuff. We're hosting the Digital Census Initiative, which I told you something about. We're really excited about being selected to be the host society for this. It's very cool. We want to become the host society for other activities, even stuff that's generated internally to us. This safe advanced mobile power might be possible to do that by 2015. We think that we are going to be playing an increasing role in defining the future of the IEEE, both the broader Future Directions Committee and in particular our Consumer Electronics Future Directions Committee and all the people who are involved in these activities, because this is going to be the future of consumer electronics. We should be the thought leaders. We're the engineers. We're the folks that makes this stuff. We're the folks that find out how to use this stuff. We're the folks that we can do this stuff. So I really think that this activity also could be a lever to drive membership growth in the Consumer Electronics Society. And members translates into volunteers. A certain percentage of volunteers will become members. So members will become volunteers. So getting more members helps us in terms of the more stuff that we can do, the more things we can do to help change the future. So let us together work to create the future. Let's find these future directions. So that's my talk. Thanks, and thanks for the power.